92%. That is the exact percentage of people who will abandon their goals before March arrives. Not by December, not by summer. By the end of February, 92 out of every 100 people have already quit. And here is the part that should disturb you. Most of them never realized the moment they gave up. They simply drifted back into the same patterns, the same excuses, the same quiet disappointment they swore this year would be different. You are listening to this right now because somewhere inside you, there is a voice saying, not this time, not again. This year has to be different. And it will be. But not because you will try harder. Not because you will find more motivation. And definitely not because you will make another list of ambitious goals that sounds impressive on January 1st and feels impossible by January 15th. This audiobook is going to give you something far more valuable than motivation. It is going to give you a system, a repeatable, practical, 7-step structure that transforms your biggest goals into weekly execution. No hype, no empty promises, just a framework that has been tested by behavioral science, refined by performance psychology, and proven by people who were exactly where you are right now. Let me be direct with you from the start. If you are looking for someone to tell you that achieving your goals is easy, that all you need is positive thinking and a vision board, you are in the wrong place. What I am about to share with you requires honesty. It requires you to look at why your previous attempts failed. And it requires you to build something that most people never build, a structure that survives real life. Here is what the next 2 hours will give you. You will learn how to pick one primary goal that unlocks everything else, instead of drowning in a list of 12 things you will never finish. You will discover the outcome to process method that makes your goals measurable and executable, not vague wishes floating in your head. You will build a weekly plan that actually survives the chaos of your real schedule. You will install habit architecture that turns motivation into automatic momentum. You will beat procrastination using friction design and simple triggers. You will master a 7-minute daily review that keeps you focused without overthinking. And you will execute a 30-day sprint that builds proof, confidence, and consistency from day one. But before any of that can happen, we need to understand something critical. We need to understand why you have failed before. Not to make you feel bad, not to dwell on the past, but because the pattern that caused your previous failures is still operating inside you right now. And if we do not disrupt that pattern, this year will end exactly like the last one. So let us talk about the 92% problem. The University of Scranton conducted a study tracking New Year's resolution success rates across a 10-year period. The results were brutal. Only 8% of people actually achieve their New Year's goals. 92% fail. But here is what the researchers found that changes everything. The failure was not random. It followed a predictable pattern with specific, identifiable causes. The first cause is what behavioral economists call goal diffusion. This is when you set too many goals at once, spreading your focus so thin that nothing gets meaningful attention. The average person sets between 5 and 10 New Year's resolutions. Studies from Harvard Business School show that when you pursue more than 3 goals simultaneously, your probability of achieving any of them drops by 67%. You think you are being ambitious. In reality, you are guaranteeing failure. The second cause is vague goal setting. Research published in the Journal of Applied Psychology found that goals defined only by outcomes, without clear process steps, fail at nearly 4 times the rate of goals with specific action plans. Saying you want to get in shape is not a goal. It is a wish. Saying you will exercise for 30 minutes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 in the morning before your kids wake up, that is a goal. The difference is not motivation. The difference is structure. The third cause is what I call the motivation myth. Most people believe that motivation drives action. They wait until they feel motivated to start. They assume successful people have more discipline, more willpower, more internal drive. Stanford psychologist B.J. Fogg spent 20 years studying behavior change and discovered the opposite. Motivation does not precede action. Action precedes motivation. The people who achieve their goals are not more motivated. They have better systems that make starting easier and quitting harder. Now let me show you the difference between how average performers and elite performers approach their goals. This distinction alone could change the trajectory of your entire year. Average performers start with enthusiasm. They write down goals on January 1st, feeling energized and optimistic. They might buy a new planner, download a new app, or announce their intentions to friends and family. For the first few days, maybe even the first few weeks, they ride the wave of newness. But then life happens. The initial excitement fades. The planner sits unopened. The app sends notifications they start ignoring. By February, they cannot remember exactly what they wrote down. They tell themselves they will restart next Monday. Next Monday becomes next month. Next month becomes next year. The cycle repeats. Elite performers start with systems. They understand that enthusiasm is a temporary fuel that burns out fast. So instead of relying on how they feel, they design environments and routines that make progress automatic. They pick one goal, not 10. They define exactly what success looks like in measurable terms. They build weekly planning rituals that put their goal on their calendar, not just in their head. They anticipate obstacles before they happen and create recovery protocols. They measure progress with leading indicators, not just outcomes. They build proof through small wins that compound into undeniable momentum. Do you see the difference? Average performers rely on motivation. Elite performers rely on structure. Average performers set goals and hope. Elite performers build systems and execute. Here is something that will either relieve you or frustrate you, depending on how you hear it. Your past failures were not your fault. Not entirely. You were using a broken approach that was never designed to work. You were told to set big goals, stay motivated, and push through with willpower. That advice ignores everything we know about human psychology, behavioral science, and how the brain actually creates lasting change. Willpower is a limited resource. A famous study from Case Western Reserve University demonstrated that willpower depletes throughout the day like a battery draining. The more decisions you make, the more you resist temptations, the more you force yourself to do things you do not want to do, the faster your willpower runs out. By evening, most people have almost no willpower left. This is why so many goals fail. They require willpower at exactly the moments when you have the least of it. But here is the breakthrough. When you design the right system, you do not need willpower. You need structure. You need friction design that makes the right choice the easy choice. You need minimum effective actions that require so little effort that resistance becomes irrelevant. You need weekly planning that puts your most important work in time blocks when your energy is highest, not whenever you happen to feel like it. Let me give you a practical example. Say your goal is to exercise more. The average approach is to tell yourself you will work out 5 times a week. You rely on motivation to get you to the gym. Some days it works. Most days it does not. You feel guilty. You tell yourself you are lazy. The goal slowly dies. The elite approach is completely different. First, you design friction. You put your workout clothes next to your bed the night before. You sleep in your running shoes if you have to. You remove every obstacle between waking up and starting. Second, you lower the bar radically. Instead of committing to an hour at the gym, you commit to 10 minutes. Just 10. Anyone can do 10 minutes. The goal is not the workout. The goal is showing up. Third, you attach the new behavior to an existing habit. After you brush your teeth in the morning, you immediately put on your workout clothes. No decision required. No willpower needed. Fourth, you track the streak. Every day you show up, you mark it on a calendar. The visual chain of progress becomes its own motivation. You stop relying on how you feel and start relying on what you have built. This is what systems thinking looks like in practice. This is the difference between the 92% who fail and the 8% who succeed. And in the chapters ahead, I am going to give you the complete blueprint for building this kind of system around your most important goal. But I need you to understand something first. Everything you are about to learn is useless if you do not make one fundamental decision right now. You have to decide that this year is not about trying harder. This year is about building smarter. You have to let go of the belief that you just need more motivation, more discipline, more willpower. Those beliefs have kept you stuck. They have kept you blaming yourself for failures that were actually system failures. You do not have a motivation problem. You have a structure problem, and structure can be built. Here is what I want you to hold on to as we move forward. Your best year is not a feeling. It is not something you hope for or wish into existence. Your best year is a structure. It is a set of systems, routines, and frameworks that make progress automatic, that remove the need for constant willpower, that survive the chaos of real life. In the next chapter, I am going to give you the first and most important piece of that structure, the one-goal filter. This is where most people go wrong immediately. They try to pursue multiple goals, spreading their focus until nothing gets done. I am going to show you how to identify the single goal that will unlock everything else. One goal, scored on 3 dimensions: impact, meaning, and leverage. This filter alone will eliminate the overwhelm that has sabotaged every previous attempt. You have spent years starting strong and fading by February. That pattern ends now, not because you are going to try harder, because you are going to build better. Let us continue. Chapter 2, the one-goal filter. Here is a number that will change how you think about goals forever. 41%. That is the percentage of goals that fail specifically because of goal overload. Not lack of motivation, not poor planning. Simply too many goals competing for the same limited attention. You are not failing because you aim too high. You are failing because you aim at too many targets at once. Think about the last time you set goals. Maybe it was New Year's Day. Maybe it was a Monday morning when you felt that surge of fresh start energy. How many goals did you write down? 3, 5, 10. If you were like most ambitious people, you probably listed everything you wanted to change. Get in shape, save more money, read more books, learn a new skill, spend more time with family, advance your career, start that side project, fix your sleep schedule, eat healthier, be more present. Each goal sounds reasonable on its own. Together, they form an impossible mountain. And here is what happens next. You start working on all of them at once. Your attention fragments. Your energy scatters. Progress on each goal moves so slowly that it feels like nothing is happening. Within weeks, the frustration builds. You cannot see results anywhere because you are spreading yourself too thin everywhere. So you quit. Not all at once. Gradually, one goal gets postponed, then another. Then you stop tracking altogether. By March, you cannot remember what you were working toward in the first place. This is goal overload, and it is destroying your potential. Research from the Dominican University of California found something remarkable about goal achievement. Participants who focused on a single primary goal were 42% more likely to achieve it than participants who pursued multiple goals simultaneously. 42%. That is not a marginal improvement. That is nearly half more likely to succeed simply by focusing on one thing. But here's where it gets interesting. The study also found that participants with a single goal reported higher satisfaction, lower stress, and greater confidence throughout the process. They were not just more successful. They were happier while pursuing success. Multiple goals create cognitive load that drains your mental resources. A single goal creates clarity that conserves them. So the question becomes, how do you choose? If you could only pursue one goal for the next 12 months, how do you decide which one deserves that focus? This is where most advice fails you. People tell you to follow your passion. They tell you to set big, audacious goals. They tell you to dream without limits. None of that helps you make an actual decision. What you need is a filter, a systematic way to evaluate your options and identify the single goal that will create the most value in your life. I call this the one-goal filter, and it scores every potential goal on 3 dimensions: impact, meaning, and leverage. Let me break down each dimension. Impact measures the tangible results this goal will produce in your life. If you achieve this goal, what specifically will change? How will your daily experience be different? Impact is about outcomes you can see, measure, and feel. A goal with high impact creates visible transformation. A goal with low impact might feel productive, but leaves your life largely unchanged. Here is how to score impact on a scale of 0 to 10. Ask yourself, if I fully achieve this goal in 12 months, how dramatically will my life improve? A score of 10 means everything changes. Your health, your finances, your relationships, your career, your daily happiness, all of them shift significantly. A score of 1 means almost nothing changes externally, even if you technically succeed. Be honest with this score. Many goals that sound impressive have surprisingly low impact when you really examine them. Meaning measures how much this goal aligns with your core values and identity. Some goals matter to you deeply. They connect to who you are and who you want to become. Other goals are borrowed. You pursue them because society expects it, because your parents wanted it, because your friends are doing it. Goals without personal meaning drain your energy. Goals with deep meaning generate their own fuel. Here is how to score meaning. Ask yourself, does this goal represent something I genuinely care about, or am I chasing someone else's definition of success? A score of 10 means this goal connects to your deepest values. You would pursue it even if no one ever knew, even if it impressed no one. A score of 1 means you feel obligated but disconnected. You should want this goal, but you do not actually want it. Again, radical honesty is required here. Leverage is the dimension most people miss entirely, and it might be the most important. Leverage measures how much achieving this goal will make other goals easier or unnecessary. Some goals are isolated. You achieve them, and nothing else changes. Other goals are keystones. You achieve them, and suddenly 5 other problems solve themselves. Let me give you an example. Say you have 2 potential goals. Learn a new language and double your income. Learning a language is wonderful, but it is relatively isolated. It improves one area of your life without dramatically affecting others. Doubling your income, however, has massive leverage. With more money, you can hire help for tasks you hate, freeing up time. You can invest in better health resources. You can reduce financial stress that damages your relationships. You can access opportunities that were previously closed. One goal unlocks many doors. Here is how to score leverage. Ask yourself, if I achieve this goal, how many other areas of my life will improve as a result? A score of 10 means this goal is a master key. It unlocks progress in health, wealth, relationships, and personal growth simultaneously. A score of 1 means this goal exists in a silo. It improves one thing and one thing only. Now here is how you use the filter. Write down every goal you are considering for the next 12 months. Do not censor yourself. Get them all on paper. Then score each goal on all 3 dimensions: impact, meaning, and leverage. Each dimension gets a score from 0 to 10. Add the 3 scores together. The goal with the highest total score is your primary goal. Everything else becomes secondary or gets eliminated entirely. Let me show you how this works in practice. Imagine someone named Sarah. She is a 34-year-old marketing manager who feels stuck. She has 6 goals she wants to pursue: get promoted to director level, lose 20 pounds, write a book, learn Spanish, improve her marriage, and start investing. Without the filter, Sarah would try to work on all 6 simultaneously. She would make minimal progress on each, feel overwhelmed, and quit most of them by spring. With the 1 goal filter, Sarah scores each goal: getting promoted, impact 8, meaning 7, leverage 9, total 24; losing 20 pounds, impact 6, meaning 5, leverage 4, total 15; writing a book, impact 5, meaning 9, leverage 3, total 17; learning Spanish, impact 3, meaning 4, leverage 2, total 9; improving her marriage, impact 9, meaning 10, leverage 7, total 26; starting investing, impact 7, meaning 5, leverage 6, total 18. 2 goals rise to the top: improving her marriage at 26 points and getting promoted at 24 points. But notice the leverage scores. Improving her marriage has a leverage of 7. Getting promoted has a leverage of 9. This matters because a higher leverage goal creates momentum that spills into other areas. Sarah might choose the promotion goal as her primary focus for the year. Why? Because achieving it would increase her income, giving her more resources to invest in her marriage, her health, and her other goals. It would boost her confidence, making her more present in relationships. It would provide a sense of accomplishment that energizes other pursuits. One goal, properly chosen, becomes the engine that drives everything else forward. This is how elite performers think about goals. They do not ask, "What do I want?" They ask, "What do I want that will make everything else easier or unnecessary?" They understand that focus is not about doing less. It is about achieving more by concentrating force on the highest leverage target. Average performers scatter their energy across 10 goals and achieve none of them. Elite performers concentrate their energy on one goal and let success cascade into every other area. This is not about being less ambitious. It is about being strategically ambitious. It is about understanding that a laser cuts through steel while a flashlight barely illuminates a room, even though both use light. Now I need to address something you might be thinking. What about the other goals? Do they just disappear? Not exactly. Once you identify your primary goal, your other goals fall into three categories. Some become supporting goals. They directly help your primary goal succeed. If your primary goal is getting promoted, then improving your communication skills or building your network becomes a supporting activity, not a separate goal. Some goals become maintenance goals. You do not actively pursue them, but you maintain current levels. If health is not your primary goal this year, you still exercise and eat reasonably. You just do not try to transform. And some goals get eliminated entirely. They were never really your goals anyway. They were borrowed aspirations that consumed energy without delivering meaning. The one-goal filter is not about abandoning your dreams. It is about sequencing them intelligently. You cannot do everything at once, but you can do everything over time if you focus on one thing at a time. The person who masters one skill per year develops 10 skills in a decade. The person who dabbles in 10 skills per year masters nothing in the same period. Here is what I want you to do after this chapter. Take 15 minutes. Write down every goal you have been considering. Do not filter yet. Get them all out. Then score each one on impact, meaning, and leverage. 0 to 10 on each dimension. Add the scores. Find your highest total. That is your primary goal for the next 12 months. Circle it. Commit to it. Let the rest fall into supporting, maintenance, or elimination categories. You now have what 90% of goal setters never get: clarity. You know exactly what you are working toward. You know why it matters. You know how it will unlock other areas of your life. That clarity alone puts you ahead of almost everyone who will set goals this year. But clarity is just the beginning. Having the right goal is necessary, but not sufficient. You still need to transform that goal from a vague aspiration into a concrete execution plan. You need to answer the question, what exactly do I do this week to move toward this goal? That is what we tackle next. In Chapter 3, I am going to give you the outcome to process method. This is where your goal stops being something you hope for and becomes something you execute on. You will learn how to break your primary goal into measurable outcomes and weekly lead measures. You will learn the difference between lag indicators and lead indicators and why focusing on the wrong one guarantees failure. You will build the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. You have chosen your one goal. Now let us make it real. Chapter 3. Outcome to process. 83% of people who set goals focus exclusively on outcomes. They fixate on the finish line while ignoring the track that leads there. And this single mistake explains why most goals remain fantasies instead of becoming realities. You have been taught to visualize success, to imagine the end result, to see yourself already there. But visualization without execution is just daydreaming with extra steps. Here is what nobody told you. Outcomes are not controllable. You cannot directly control whether you get promoted. You cannot directly control whether you lose 20 pounds. You cannot directly control whether your book becomes a bestseller or your business hits a revenue target. Outcomes are the results of countless variables, many of which exist outside your influence. When you focus only on outcomes, you are betting your success on factors you cannot control. And that is a losing strategy. What you can control is process. You can control whether you complete your most important task before checking email. You can control whether you exercise for 30 minutes today. You can control whether you write 500 words this morning. You can control whether you make 10 sales calls before noon. Process is where your power lives. Process is where your agency exists. Process is the only thing that actually moves you forward. The outcome to process method is built on this fundamental truth. It transforms vague goals into executable weekly actions by separating what you want to achieve from what you need to do. And it introduces a distinction that elite performers understand intuitively but average performers miss entirely. The difference between lag measures and lead measures. Let me explain this distinction because it will change how you think about progress forever. A lag measure is an outcome metric. It tells you whether you have achieved your goal. Weight on the scale is a lag measure. Revenue is a lag measure. Your promotion status is a lag measure. Lag measures are important because they define success. But here's the problem. Lag measures only tell you what already happened. By the time you see a lag measure, the result is already locked in. You cannot change it. If you step on the scale and see a number you do not like, that number reflects weeks or months of past behavior. The scale is not showing you your future. It is showing you your past. A lead measure is a process metric. It tells you whether you are doing the activities that drive the outcome. Number of workouts per week is a lead measure. Number of sales calls made is a lead measure. Hours spent on deep work is a lead measure. Lead measures are predictive. They tell you what is likely to happen based on what you are doing right now. And most importantly, lead measures are controllable. You can directly influence them through your daily actions. Research from the Franklin Covey Institute, which studied over 15,000 teams implementing strategic goals, found a striking pattern. Teams that tracked lead measures were 4 times more likely to achieve their goals than teams that tracked only lag measures. 4 times. Not a small improvement. A fundamental transformation in success rates simply by shifting what they measured. Here is why this matters for you. When you set a goal like losing 20 pounds, that is a lag measure. You cannot directly make the scale move. What you can do is control the lead measures that drive weight loss. Number of workouts, calories consumed, hours of sleep, glasses of water. When you focus on executing lead measures consistently, the lag measure takes care of itself. The weight drops not because you willed it to happen, but because you did the activities that make it inevitable. Average performers obsess over lag measures. They check the scale every day, hoping for different numbers. They refresh their bank account, hoping for more money. They wait for the promotion announcement, hoping their name appears. This obsession creates anxiety because lag measures move slowly and unpredictably. You can do everything right for 2 weeks and see no change. Average performers interpret this as failure and quit. They never understand that lag measures are trailing indicators. They reflect past effort, not current effort. The results of today's work might not appear for weeks or months. Elite performers obsess over lead measures. They track whether they completed their workouts, not whether they lost weight. They track whether they made their sales calls, not whether they closed deals. They track whether they did their deep work hours, not whether they got promoted. This obsession creates confidence because lead measures move immediately. Every day you execute your lead measures, you win. Every day you win, you build momentum. You stop depending on external validation and start depending on internal execution. The lag measures eventually follow because they have no choice. They are the inevitable consequence of consistent lead measure execution. Now let me show you how to apply the outcome to process method to your primary goal. Step 1 is defining your outcome with brutal specificity. Vague outcomes produce vague results. Instead of saying you want to get in better shape, define exactly what better shape means. Is it losing 15 pounds? Running a 5-kilometer race in under 30 minutes? Doing 20 push-ups without stopping? Fitting into a specific pair of pants? The outcome must be measurable and time-bound. You need to know exactly what success looks like and exactly when you are measuring it. Step 2 is identifying the lead measures that drive that outcome. This requires you to ask a critical question. What activities, done consistently, would make this outcome nearly inevitable? For weight loss, the lead measures might be workouts per week and calories tracked per day. For career advancement, the lead measures might be strategic projects completed and visibility meetings attended. For writing a book, the lead measures might be words written per day and research hours per week. You want 2 to 3 lead measures maximum. More than that fragments your focus and makes tracking unsustainable. Step 3 is setting weekly targets for your lead measures. This is where the outcome to process method becomes concrete and actionable. You translate your lead measures into specific weekly commitments, not daily commitments, which are too granular and create guilt when you miss a single day. Weekly commitments give you flexibility while maintaining accountability. If your lead measure is workouts, your weekly target might be for workouts of at least 30 minutes. If your lead measure is deep work, your weekly target might be 15 hours of focused, uninterrupted work on your primary project. Step 4 is building a tracking system. What gets measured gets managed. You need a simple, frictionless way to track whether you hit your weekly lead measure targets. This can be a spreadsheet, a habit tracking app, or a simple paper tally. The format matters less than the consistency. Every week, you record whether you hit your targets. Over time, this tracking creates a visual record of your execution. You can see patterns. You can identify obstacles. You can celebrate streaks. The tracking system transforms your goal from an abstract aspiration into a concrete game you play every week. Let me give you a real example to make this tangible. Marcus is a 37-year-old software engineer who wants to transition into engineering management within 12 months. That is his primary goal after applying the one-goal filter from the previous chapter. High impact, high meaning, high leverage. Using the outcome to process method, Marcus first defines his outcome with specificity. Receive a promotion to engineering manager by December 31st, confirmed by official title change and compensation adjustment. That is his lag measure. Clear, measurable, time-bound. Next, Marcus identifies the lead measures that drive this outcome. After researching what his company values in manager candidates, he identifies 3 key activities. First, leading cross-team projects that demonstrate coordination skills. Second, mentoring junior engineers to show people development ability. Third, building relationships with senior leadership through regular one-on-one meetings. These are his lead measures. Then Marcus sets weekly targets. He commits to dedicating 5 hours per week to his cross-team project. He commits to 1 mentoring session per week with a junior engineer. He commits to 1 coffee meeting per week with a senior leader. These are specific, trackable, controllable actions. Finally, Marcus creates a simple tracking spreadsheet. Every Friday, he records whether he hit his 3 targets. 5 project hours, yes or no. Mentoring session completed, yes or no. Senior leader meeting completed, yes or no. At the end of each month, he can see exactly how consistently he executed. Notice what Marcus is not tracking. He is not tracking whether his manager noticed his efforts. He is not tracking whether he is on the promotion list. He is not tracking whether senior leaders like him. Those are lag measures. They are outside his direct control. By focusing on lead measures, Marcus takes ownership of his progress. He is not waiting and hoping. He is executing and building. The promotion becomes the natural consequence of sustained lead measure execution. This is the outcome to process method in action. It takes the goal you identified with the one-goal filter and transforms it from something you want into something you do. It shifts your focus from uncontrollable outcomes to controllable processes. It gives you a game to play every week where winning is entirely within your power. Here is something important to understand. The lead measures you choose will probably need adjustment over time. You might discover that one of your initial lead measures does not actually drive the outcome you expected. That is fine. The method is iterative. You execute for a few weeks, review your progress, and refine your lead measures based on what you learn. The goal remains fixed. The process evolves as you gain insight. You now have 2 critical pieces of the system. You have the one-goal filter to identify what matters most. You have the outcome to process method to define exactly how you will pursue it. But there is still a missing piece. You have weekly targets, but when exactly will you work on them? What happens when your calendar fills up with meetings, emergencies, and other people's priorities? How do you protect your lead measure activities from the chaos of daily life? This is the challenge we solve next. In Chapter 4, I am going to give you the weekly winning plan. This is a 30-minute ritual that structures your entire week around your primary goal. You will learn how to time block your lead measure activities so they actually happen instead of getting pushed to someday. You will learn how to defend your priorities against the constant invasion of urgent but unimportant tasks. You will build a weekly rhythm that makes execution automatic. Your goal is defined. Your process is clear. Now let us protect your time. Chapter 4. The weekly winning plan. 73% of professionals report that their weeks feel out of control. They start Monday with intentions. They end Friday wondering where the time went. 5 days pass in a blur of meetings, emails, interruptions, and other people's emergencies. Their own priorities sit untouched, pushed to next week, which somehow never arrives. This is not a time management problem. This is a structural failure, and it is completely preventable. Here is the truth that changed everything for me. Your week is not something that happens to you. Your week is something you design. Every Sunday evening or Monday morning, you have a choice. You can let the week unfold randomly, reacting to whatever lands in your inbox or walks through your door. Or you can architect the week deliberately, deciding in advance what matters most and exactly when it will happen. The difference between these two approaches is the difference between drifting and directing, between hoping and executing, between being busy and being productive. The weekly winning plan is a 30-minute ritual that transforms how you operate. It takes the lead measures you defined in the previous chapter and locks them into your calendar before anything else can claim that space. It creates protected time for your primary goal when you have the most energy and focus. It anticipates obstacles before they derail you, and it gives you a simple framework for making decisions throughout the week about what deserves your attention and what does not. Let me walk you through exactly how this works. The ritual has 5 components, and the entire process takes no more than 30 minutes once you have practiced it a few times. You can do it Sunday evening to start your week with clarity, or Monday morning before the chaos begins. The timing matters less than the consistency. What matters is that you never start a week without completing this ritual. Component 1 is the review. You spend 5 minutes looking at what happened last week. Did you hit your lead measure targets? If yes, acknowledge the win. Do not skip this step. Recognizing progress builds the confidence that fuels continued execution. If no, ask why without judgment. What got in the way? Was it a planning failure, an unexpected obstacle, or a commitment you made that you should not have? The review is not about guilt. It is about learning. Every week teaches you something about how you operate and what disrupts your execution. Capture that insight. Component 2 is the outcome visualization. You spend 3 minutes answering one question. What would make this week a win? Not a perfect week. Not an ideal week. A winning week. Given everything on your plate, what are the 2 or 3 outcomes that would make you feel like you moved forward on what matters most? Write these down. Be specific. Not vague intentions like make progress on my project, but concrete deliverables like complete the first draft of the proposal or finish the data analysis for the quarterly report. These become your weekly wins, the outcomes you are playing for over the next 7 days. Component 3 is the lead measure scheduling. This is the heart of the weekly winning plan. You take your lead measure targets and you put them in your calendar as appointments. Not mental notes, not intentions. Actual calendar blocks with start times and end times. If your lead measure is 5 hours of work on your cross-team project, you open your calendar and find 5 hours. Maybe 2 hours on Tuesday morning, 2 hours on Thursday morning, and 1 hour on Friday afternoon. You block that time and label it clearly. You treat it with the same respect you would give a meeting with your most important client. Because it is a meeting. It is a meeting with your future. Here is why this matters so much. Research from the American Psychological Association shows that scheduled activities are 3 times more likely to be completed than unscheduled intentions. 3 times. The simple act of putting something in your calendar dramatically increases the probability that it happens. This is because scheduling creates commitment. When you see time blocked for your lead measures, that time becomes defended territory. You have already decided what happens during those hours. When someone asks if you are available for a meeting, you can honestly say no. You have a prior commitment. The commitment is to yourself, but it is a commitment nonetheless. Component 4 is the obstacle anticipation. You spend 5 minutes asking, what could derail me this week? What meetings might run long? What deadlines might create pressure? What personal obligations might compete for attention? What low-energy days might tempt me to skip my commitments? By anticipating obstacles in advance, you can create contingency plans. If your Thursday morning deep work block might get interrupted by a recurring team meeting, You schedule backup time on Thursday afternoon. If you know Wednesday will be exhausting because of back-to-back calls, you do not schedule demanding lead measure work that day. Obstacle anticipation is not pessimism. It is realism. It is acknowledging that plans meet reality and preparing for the collision. Component 5 is the commitment statement. You end the ritual by writing or speaking a single sentence that captures your commitment for the week. This week, I will complete my 3 lead measure targets and achieve my 2 weekly wins because this is how I build my best year. The exact words matter less than the act of declaration. You are not hoping the week goes well. You are committing to making it go well. This psychological closure signals to your brain that the planning phase is over and the execution phase has begun. 30 minutes. 5 components. Review, visualization, scheduling, anticipation, commitment. This simple ritual separates people who wish from people who win. Now let me address the most common objection I hear when I teach this method. People say their calendars are already full. They say they do not have time to block for lead measures because meetings consume everything. They say their schedule is controlled by others, not by themselves. If this sounds like you, I need to be direct. That is an excuse, not a reason. Your calendar reflects your priorities, whether you consciously chose those priorities or not. If your calendar is full of meetings, it means meetings are your priority. If your calendar has no time for your primary goal, it means your primary goal is not actually a priority. The calendar does not lie. It reveals what you have committed to through your actions, regardless of what you say matters to you. Here is the uncomfortable truth. You will never find time for your most important work. Finding implies that time is hiding somewhere, waiting to be discovered. It is not. Every hour is already claimed by something or someone. You do not find time. You make time. You make time by deciding what matters most and protecting it before everything else fills the space. This requires saying no. It requires declining meetings that do not serve your priorities. It requires shortening meetings that could be emails. It requires blocking your calendar before others block it for you. It requires treating your lead measure time as sacred and non-negotiable. Average performers let their calendar happen to them. They accept every meeting invitation. They leave their schedule open for others to claim. They squeeze their own priorities into whatever scraps remain, usually late at night when they are exhausted. Then they wonder why they never make progress on what matters most. Elite performers design their calendar intentionally. They block their highest value work first, during their peak energy hours. They batch meetings into specific windows so interruptions do not fragment their days. They protect deep work time like a valuable asset because that is exactly what it is. They say no to low-priority requests without guilt because every yes to something unimportant is a no to something important. Let me give you a practical example. Jennifer is a marketing director with a calendar that looks like a war zone. Back-to-back meetings from 9 to 5 every day. She felt like she had no control. When she applied the weekly winning plan, she discovered something revealing. 40% of her meetings were optional. She attended them out of habit or fear of missing out, not because they required her presence. Another 30% could be shortened from 60 minutes to 30 minutes with better agendas. Only 30% were truly essential. Jennifer started blocking 90 minutes every morning from 7:30 to 9 for her lead measure work before the meeting madness began. She declined or delegated the optional meetings. She implemented strict 30-minute defaults for meetings she controlled. Within 3 weeks, she had reclaimed 8 hours per week for focused work on her primary goal. Her calendar did not magically expand. She redesigned it to reflect her actual priorities. Here is the key mindset shift. You are not asking for permission to work on your goals. You are deciding to work on your goals and structuring your time accordingly. No one is going to tap you on the shoulder and say, "Here are 2 hours for your important project." That will never happen. You have to claim that time yourself, proactively, before each week begins. The weekly winning plan makes this claiming systematic. Every week, you review what happened, visualize what winning looks like, schedule your lead measures, anticipate obstacles, and commit to execution. 30 minutes of planning creates 40+ hours of directed action. That is a return on investment you cannot afford to ignore. One more thing before we move on. The weekly winning plan works best when paired with a simple decision filter you can use throughout the week. When new requests come in, when opportunities arise, when someone asks for your time, run it through this question. Does this help me hit my lead measure targets or achieve my weekly wins? If yes, consider it. If no, decline it or defer it. This filter prevents the gradual erosion of your planned week by well-intentioned but goal-irrelevant demands. You now have a primary goal from the one-goal filter. You have lead measures and weekly targets from the outcome to process method. You have protected calendar time from the weekly winning plan. The system is taking shape, but there is still a critical question unanswered. What happens on the days when everything goes sideways? What happens when you do not feel like executing? What is the minimum action that keeps momentum alive when life overwhelms your best-laid plans? In the next chapter, I am going to introduce the minimum effective day. This concept ensures that even your worst days contribute to your goal, even when motivation disappears, even when energy crashes, even when nothing goes according to plan. You will learn the one action that keeps the chain unbroken and prevents small setbacks from becoming complete derailment. Your week is now designed. Let us make every day count. Chapter 5. The minimum effective day. Here is a statistic that contradicts everything you have been told about success. Researchers at University College London studied habit formation across 96 participants over 12 weeks. They found that missing a single day had zero measurable impact on long-term habit success. But missing 2 consecutive days reduced the probability of habit formation by 40%. 2 days, not a week, not a month. Just 2 consecutive days of inaction can collapse months of progress. This finding reveals something crucial about how momentum works. Success is not about intensity. It is about continuity. The person who shows up every day with minimal effort outperforms the person who shows up occasionally with maximum effort. Your goal is not to have perfect days. Your goal is to never have 2 bad days in a row. And that requires a fundamentally different approach than what most people use. Most people operate in what I call the all-or-nothing trap. They believe that if they cannot do their full workout, they should skip it entirely. If they cannot write for 2 hours, why bother writing at all? If they cannot execute their complete morning routine, they abandon the whole thing. This thinking feels logical. Why do something halfway? But it is catastrophically wrong. Because halfway is infinitely better than nothing. Something always beats nothing. Always. The all-or-nothing trap destroys goals in a predictable way. You start strong, executing your full plan with enthusiasm. Then life happens. You get sick. Work explodes. Family needs attention. Travel disrupts your schedule. Suddenly, you cannot do your full routine. And because you believe partial effort is worthless, you do nothing. 1 day of nothing becomes 2. 2 becomes a week. A week becomes a month. By the time you try to restart, the habit is dead and the goal feels impossibly distant. The minimum effective day is the antidote to this trap. It answers a simple question. What is the smallest action that keeps me in the game? Not the ideal action, not the optimal action. The minimum action that maintains momentum and prevents 2 consecutive days of zero. Let me be specific about what this looks like. If your lead measure is 5 workouts per week, your minimum effective day might be 5 minutes of stretching. Not a full workout, just 5 minutes of movement. If your lead measure is 2 hours of deep work daily, your minimum effective day might be 15 minutes of focused work on your most important task. Not 2 hours, just 15 minutes. If your lead measure is writing 500 words per day, your minimum effective day might be writing 50 words. Not 500, just 50. These numbers sound almost insultingly small. That is the point. The minimum effective day must be so easy that you can do it when you are sick, exhausted, traveling, overwhelmed, or completely unmotivated. It must require so little willpower that resistance becomes irrelevant. It must be almost impossible to fail. Stanford behavior scientist B.J. Fogg calls this the concept of tiny habits. His research demonstrates that the size of the habit matters far less than the consistency of the habit. A person who does 2 push-ups every day for a year builds a stronger exercise identity than a person who does intense workouts sporadically. The 2 push-up person has proven to themselves 365 times that they are someone who exercises. The sporadic person has proven nothing except that they occasionally feel motivated. This is the psychology you need to understand. Every time you execute your minimum effective day, you cast a vote for the identity you are building. You are not just completing a task. You are reinforcing a belief about who you are. I am someone who writes every day. I am someone who exercises every day. I am someone who works on my goals every day. These identity statements become self-fulfilling prophecies. The more votes you cast, the stronger the identity becomes. The stronger the identity, the easier the behavior. Average performers focus on outcomes. They ask, did I make significant progress today? If the answer is no, they feel like failures. Their motivation depends on visible results, which often take weeks or months to appear. When results lag behind effort, average performers lose faith and quit. Elite performers focus on identity. They ask, did I show up as the person I am becoming? If the answer is yes, they win, regardless of how much they accomplished. Their motivation depends on consistency, which they control completely. Elite performers understand that results are a lagging indicator of identity. Become the person who executes daily, and the results inevitably follow. Let me give you a framework for defining your own minimum effective day. It has 3 criteria. Criterion 1. It must take less than 10 minutes. If your minimum requires more than 10 minutes, it is not minimum enough. The whole point is that time and energy are never valid excuses. Even on your worst day, you have 10 minutes. If you do not have 10 minutes, you do not have a life, you have a crisis. And crises are temporary. Criterion 2. It must be specific and unmistakable. You must know exactly what counts and what is not. 5 minutes of stretching is specific. Some movement is vague. 50 words written is specific. A little writing is vague. Specificity eliminates negotiation. You either did it or you did not. Criterion 3. It must directly connect to your primary goal. The minimum effective day is not random activity. It is the smallest possible unit of progress toward your specific lead measures. If your goal is writing a book, your minimum must involve writing. If your goal is fitness, your minimum must involve physical activity. The connection must be clear and direct. Here is how this plays out in practice. David is a 42-year-old consultant trying to build a side business while managing a demanding corporate job. His primary goal is launching an online course within 12 months. His lead measure is 10 hours per week of course development work. On normal weeks, he blocks 2 hours every weekday morning for this work. But David travels frequently. Some weeks, his schedule explodes with client emergencies. The old David would have skipped his coursework entirely during chaotic weeks, telling himself he would catch up later. Catch up later never happened. The new David has a minimum effective day defined. 15 minutes of coursework, which could be outlining one lesson, recording one short video segment, or editing existing material. On brutal travel days, David does his 15 minutes in the airport lounge or hotel room before bed. It is not ideal. It does not move the needle dramatically, but it keeps the chain unbroken. It maintains his identity as someone building a course. It prevents the 2-day gap that kills momentum. After 6 months of this approach, David noticed something remarkable. He had worked on his course every single day for 180 consecutive days. Not always for 2 hours, sometimes for just 15 minutes, but every single day. That consistency compounded into massive progress. His course was 80% complete, ahead of schedule, despite a year filled with travel and client demands. The minimum effective day did not replace his full work sessions. It protected them by keeping momentum alive between them. There is a psychological principle operating here that explains why this works so well. It is called the Zygarnik effect, named after Russian psychologist Bluma Zygarnik. Her research found that uncompleted tasks create cognitive tension that keeps them active in our minds. When you do your minimum effective day, you maintain this tension. Your brain keeps processing the goal in the background. Ideas emerge during downtime. Solutions appear unexpectedly. The goal stays alive in your consciousness. When you skip entirely, the tension dissipates. Your brain files the goal away as inactive. Restarting requires rebuilding not just the habit, but the mental engagement with the project. This is why breaks of even a few days can make goals feel foreign and distant when you return to them. The minimum effective day prevents this disconnection by keeping the cognitive tension alive. One important clarification: the minimum effective day is not your target. It is your floor. On good days, you should absolutely do more than the minimum. You should execute your full lead measure targets. You should aim for your ideal performance. The minimum exists only for bad days. It is insurance against complete collapse, not a license for mediocrity. Think of it this way. Your full lead measure execution is the accelerator. It drives rapid progress toward your goal. Your minimum effective day is the emergency brake. It prevents you from rolling backward when you cannot accelerate. You need both. All accelerator with no emergency brake leads to crashes when obstacles appear. All emergency brake with no accelerator leads to stillness disguised as stability. Here is what I want you to do right now. Define your minimum effective day for your primary goal. What is the smallest action that takes less than 10 minutes, is completely specific, and directly connects to your lead measures? Write it down. Memorize it. This is your non-negotiable floor. This is the action you take no matter what. Sick, tired, traveling, overwhelmed, it does not matter. This is what you do. You now have a powerful set of tools. The one goal filter for focus. The outcome to process method for clarity. The weekly winning plan for structure. The minimum effective day for resilience. But there is still a critical element missing. All of these tools require you to take action, and action requires overcoming resistance. Every day, your brain will generate reasons to delay, to procrastinate, to do the easy thing instead of the important thing. Willpower alone cannot win this battle consistently. In the next chapter, I am going to show you how to redesign your environment so that good behaviors become easier and bad behaviors become harder. This is called friction design, and it is the hidden force that determines whether your intentions become actions. You will learn how to make your goals the path of least resistance, so execution feels almost automatic. Your minimum is defined. Now let us engineer your environment. Chapter 6: Friction Design. A study from Duke University found that 43% of daily behaviors are performed automatically, without conscious decision. Nearly half of everything you do today will happen on autopilot, driven not by intention, but by environment. Your surroundings are constantly shaping your choices in ways you never notice. The layout of your kitchen determines what you eat. The apps on your phone's home screen determine how you spend your time. The distance between your bed and your alarm clock determines whether you snooze or rise. You think you are making free choices. In reality, your environment is making most of them for you. This is either terrifying news or liberating news, depending on what you do with it. Terrifying if you ignore it. Because right now, your environment was probably designed by accident, by advertisers, by default settings, by whatever happened to be convenient when you moved in or set up your devices. An accidental environment creates accidental behaviors. And accidental behaviors rarely align with your most important goals. Liberating if you leverage it. Because once you understand that environment drives behavior, you gain a superpower. You can deliberately redesign your surroundings to make good behaviors effortless and bad behaviors difficult. You can stop relying on willpower, which depletes, and start relying on design, which persists. You can make your goals the path of least resistance. This is friction design, and it might be the most underutilized strategy in personal development. The core principle is simple. Every behavior has friction, which is the effort required to perform it. High-friction behaviors require more steps, more time, more energy, more decisions. Low-friction behaviors require fewer steps, less time, less energy, fewer decisions. Human beings are fundamentally lazy in a neurological sense. Our brains are wired to conserve energy by defaulting to the easiest available option. This is not a character flaw. It is evolution. For thousands of years, conserving energy meant survival. The problem is that in modern life, the easiest options are rarely the best options. Scrolling social media is easier than deep work. Ordering takeout is easier than cooking healthy meals. Watching another episode is easier than going to sleep on time. Checking email is easier than tackling your most important project. Without intervention, your brain will choose ease over importance every single time. Friction design intervenes by manipulating the effort equation. You add friction to behaviors you want to avoid and remove friction from behaviors you want to perform. The result is an environment where good choices become obvious and bad choices become inconvenient. Let me show you how this works with a concept from behavioral economics called the activation energy threshold. Every behavior requires a certain amount of activation energy to initiate. For low-friction behaviors, this threshold is tiny. Picking up your phone requires almost zero activation energy. The phone is right there, already unlocked, notifications glowing. For high-friction behaviors, the threshold is substantial. Going to the gym requires finding your clothes, packing a bag, driving there, checking in, and starting your workout. Multiple steps, multiple decision points, multiple opportunities to quit. Research from Harvard Business School demonstrates that even small changes in activation energy produce dramatic changes in behavior. In one study, employees were offered free fruits and vegetables in the office cafeteria. When the healthy options were placed at the front of the serving line, consumption increased by 25%. When they were placed at the back, consumption dropped. The food was identical. The price was identical. Only the friction changed. 25% behavior change from a few feet of distance. This is the leverage you have access to. You do not need more discipline. You need less friction on the right behaviors and more friction on the wrong ones. Let me give you a practical framework for applying friction design to your goals. It has two components: friction removal for goal-supporting behaviors and friction addition for goal-sabotaging behaviors. Friction removal asks, how can I make my desired behavior require fewer steps, less time, less energy, and fewer decisions? Every obstacle you eliminate increases the probability of execution. Here are specific strategies. Strategy 1 is preparation the night before. If your goal involves morning activity, prepare everything the previous evening. Lay out workout clothes next to your bed. Set up your coffee maker on a timer. Place your journal and pen on your desk. Put your running shoes by the door. When you wake up, the path is already cleared. You do not need to search for anything, decide anything, or organize anything. You just execute. Strategy 2 is reducing the number of steps. Count how many steps stand between you and your desired behavior. Then systematically eliminate as many as possible. If you want to read more, do not keep books on a shelf in another room. Keep the current book on your pillow so you see it when you go to bed. If you want to practice guitar, do not store it in a case in the closet. Keep it on a stand in your living room where you will see it constantly. If you want to drink more water, do not rely on remembering to fill a glass. Keep a full water bottle on your desk at all times. Strategy 3 is decision elimination. Every decision consumes mental energy and creates an opportunity to choose wrong. Eliminate decisions by creating defaults. Eat the same healthy breakfast every day so you never have to decide what to eat in the morning. Wear a personal uniform so you never have to decide what to wear. Schedule your lead measure work at the same time every day so you never have to decide when to do it. Decisions are friction. Defaults are freedom. Strategy 4 is environment optimization. Redesign your physical space to support your goals. If you want to focus on deep work, create a distraction-free zone with no phone, no notifications, and no visual clutter. If you want to eat healthier, reorganize your kitchen so healthy options are visible and accessible while unhealthy options are hidden or absent. Your environment should make the right choice the obvious choice. Now let us talk about friction addition. This asks, how can I make my undesired behavior require more steps, more time, more energy, and more decisions? Every obstacle you add decreases the probability of the behavior. Strategy 1 is increasing physical distance. The further something is from you, the less likely you are to use it. If you want to reduce phone usage, do not keep your phone on your desk while working. Put it in another room. The extra steps required to retrieve it create friction that interrupts the automatic reach. If you want to stop snacking at night, do not keep snacks in the kitchen. Keep them in the garage or do not buy them at all. Distance defeats temptation. Strategy 2 is adding steps. Make the undesired behavior inconvenient by adding barriers. If you want to stop watching television mindlessly, unplug the TV after each use and put the remote in a drawer. Now watching TV requires multiple deliberate actions instead of one automatic one. If you want to reduce social media usage, log out of all accounts after each session and use complex passwords you cannot remember. The friction of logging back and creates a pause that interrupts the habit loop. Strategy 3 is using commitment devices. These are arrangements that lock in future behavior by making deviation costly. If you want to ensure you wake up early, place your alarm clock across the room so you must physically get out of bed to turn it off. If you want to guarantee you exercise, schedule sessions with a trainer you have already paid. If you want to force yourself to write, use apps that lock you out of the internet until you reach your word count. Commitment devices remove the option of easy escape. Strategy 4 is social friction. Make your undesired behaviors visible to others. Tell your spouse you are quitting sugar and ask them to hold you accountable. Announce your goal publicly so backing out creates embarrassment. Join a group pursuing the same goal where your absence will be noticed. Social pressure is friction that works even when your willpower fails. Let me show you how this all comes together. Rachel is a 31-year-old attorney who wanted to write a novel but kept getting derailed by her phone. Every time she sat down to write, she found herself scrolling instead. Willpower was not working. She decided to apply friction design. First, she removed friction from writing. She set up a dedicated writing space with only her laptop, which had all social media sites blocked during writing hours. She prepared her writing materials every night so they were ready each morning. She created a default schedule of writing from 6 to 7:30 every morning before work. Second, she added friction to phone usage during writing time. She bought a timed lockbox and put her phone inside it every night, set to unlock at 8 in the morning. She could not access her phone during writing hours even if she wanted to. She deleted social media apps from her phone entirely, requiring her to access them only through a browser on her laptop, which was blocked during writing time. The result was dramatic. Rachel went from writing sporadically, maybe once or twice a week, to writing every single morning. In 8 months, she completed the first draft of her novel. The difference was not more willpower or motivation. The difference was friction. She made writing easy and distraction hard. Her environment did the heavy lifting that her willpower could not. This is the power of friction design. You stop fighting your nature and start leveraging it. You stop asking yourself to be stronger and start making the right choice easier. You engineer your success instead of hoping for it. Average performers rely on willpower to override their environment. They fight against the current every day, exhausting themselves in a battle they cannot win consistently. Elite performers redesign their environment to eliminate the battle entirely. They make their goals the default, the obvious choice, the path of least resistance. They save their willpower for genuine emergencies instead of burning it on daily decisions. Here is your action step. Look at your primary goal and identify one friction to remove and one friction to add. What single change would make your desired behavior easier? What single change would make your undesired behavior harder? Implement both this week. Do not wait for perfect conditions. Start engineering your environment now. You now have strategies for designing your week, protecting your momentum, and shaping your environment. But even the best systems require daily maintenance. Your focus will drift. Your priorities will blur. Small deviations will accumulate into large detours if you do not catch them quickly. In the next chapter, I am going to give you the 7-minute daily review. This is a simple ritual that keeps you aligned with your goals every single day without consuming significant time or energy. You will learn how to reset your focus each morning and consolidate your progress each evening. 7 minutes that prevent hours of wasted effort. Your environment is designed. Now let us keep you on track. Chapter 7. The 7-minute daily review. 67% of people who set goals never review them after the initial writing. They capture their intentions once, feel momentarily inspired, and then never look at them again. The goals sit in a notebook or an app, slowly fading from memory while daily urgencies consume all available attention. This is not a discipline problem. It is a design problem. Without a systematic review process, even the best goals become background noise drowned out by the volume of everyday life. Here is what makes this particularly frustrating. The solution requires almost no time. Research from the Dominican University of California found that people who conducted brief daily reviews of their goals were 33% more likely to achieve them than people who simply wrote goals down. 33% improvement from a habit that takes less than 10 minutes. Yet almost no one does it. Why? Because they overcomplicate it. They think reviewing goals means elaborate journaling sessions, detailed progress tracking, or lengthy reflection exercises. It does not. Effective daily review can happen in 7 minutes or less. The 7-minute daily review is split into 2 parts: a morning reset that takes 4 minutes and an evening consolidation that takes 3 minutes. Together, they create a daily rhythm that keeps your primary goal at the center of your attention regardless of what chaos surrounds you. Let me walk you through each component. The morning reset happens immediately after you wake up, before you check your phone, before you read emails, before you engage with anyone else's agenda. These 4 minutes are sacred. They belong to you and your goals. Nothing else. The first minute is for intention setting. You ask yourself one question: what is the one thing I must accomplish today to move toward my primary goal? Not everything you could do. Not your entire to-do list. The one thing that matters most. Write it down or speak it out loud. This single act clarifies your priority before the day fragments your attention. You now have a target. Everything else is secondary. The second minute is for visualization. Close your eyes and mentally rehearse completing your one thing. See yourself doing the work. Feel the focus, the progress, the completion. Visualization is not mystical nonsense. Research from the Journal of Experimental Psychology shows that mental rehearsal activates the same neural pathways as physical action, priming your brain for execution. Athletes use this technique before competitions. Surgeons use it before operations. You can use it before your most important daily work. The third minute is for obstacle anticipation. Ask yourself, what could prevent me from completing my one thing today? Identify the most likely disruption. Maybe it is a recurring meeting that drains your energy. Maybe it is a tendency to check email compulsively. Maybe it is fatigue from poor sleep last night. Name the obstacle specifically, then decide in advance how you will handle it. If the meeting runs long, I will still protect 30 minutes for my priority immediately after. If I feel the urge to check email, I will do 5 minutes of deep work first. This if-then planning, which psychologists call implementation intentions, dramatically increases follow-through by preparing your response before the obstacle appears. The fourth minute is for commitment. Say to yourself, either silently or aloud, today, I will complete my one thing because this is how I build my best year. This statement sounds simple, almost trivial, but it serves a critical psychological function. It transitions your brain from planning mode to execution mode. It closes the loop on preparation and opens the loop on action. You are no longer considering what to do. You have decided what to do. For minutes. Intention, visualization, obstacle anticipation, commitment. That is your morning reset. It takes less time than brewing coffee. Yet it fundamentally changes how you enter each day. Now let me explain the evening consolidation. This happens in the final hour before sleep, after your work is done, but before you disengage completely. These 3 minutes close the loop on today and prepare you for tomorrow. The first minute is for acknowledgement. Ask yourself, did I complete my one thing today? If yes, acknowledge the win explicitly. Say it out loud if possible. I completed my one thing today. I moved closer to my goal. This is not self-congratulation. It is psychological reinforcement. Your brain needs to register success to build the positive associations that sustain motivation. If you did not complete your one thing, acknowledge that too without judgment. I did not complete my one thing today. Then ask, what got in the way? Identify the specific obstacle without making excuses. Learn from it. Move on. The second minute is for gratitude and progress notation. Identify one thing you are grateful for related to your goal pursuit. Maybe it is the energy you had this morning. Maybe it is a resource you have access to. Maybe it is simply the fact that you are still in the game, still showing up, still trying. Gratitude reframes goal pursuit from obligation to opportunity. It prevents the burnout that comes from seeing your goal as endless work. Then note your progress, however small. What did you accomplish today that moved you forward? Write one sentence capturing this progress. These daily notes accumulate into a powerful record that proves your advancement even when it feels invisible. The third minute is for tomorrow preparation. Identify your one thing for tomorrow before you sleep tonight. Do not wait until morning. Your subconscious mind will process this intention overnight, often generating ideas and solutions while you rest. This phenomenon, called the incubation effect, has been documented extensively in creativity research. By defining tomorrow's priority tonight, you leverage your sleeping hours for goal advancement. You also eliminate decision fatigue in the morning. When you wake up, the decision is already made. You just execute. 3 minutes. Acknowledgement, gratitude, and progress notation, tomorrow preparation. That is your evening consolidation. Combined, these two rituals take 7 minutes per day. 4 in the morning, 3 in the evening. In exchange, you get continuous goal focus, daily progress tracking, obstacle preparation, psychological reinforcement, and next day clarity. The return on this 7-minute investment is extraordinary. Let me show you why this matters so much by contrasting two approaches. Average performers wake up and immediately check their phones. They scroll through notifications, emails, and social media before their feet hit the floor. Their first mental engagement of the day is with other people's agendas, other people's emergencies, other people's content. By the time they start working, they have already lost the clarity they went to sleep with. Their priorities are buried under the noise of incoming demands. They spend the day reacting instead of directing. At night, they collapse into bed exhausted, with no clear sense of what they accomplished or what matters tomorrow. They wake up the next day and repeat the cycle. Elite performers wake up and protect their first minutes for intention setting. Before anyone else's agenda enters their awareness, they clarify their own. They visualize success and anticipate obstacles. They commit to their priority. They enter the day focused and directed. At night, they acknowledge their progress, express gratitude, and prepare for tomorrow. They go to sleep with closure and wake up with clarity. Every day begins and ends with intentionality. Over time, this compounds into a fundamentally different life trajectory. The difference is not talent or intelligence. The difference is 7 minutes. Here is something important to understand about daily review. Consistency matters more than perfection. You will miss days. You will rush through the process sometimes. You will forget the evening review when you are exhausted. That is fine. The goal is not perfection. The goal is pattern. Aim for completing the review at least 5 days per week. That is enough to maintain the benefits while allowing for human imperfection. Some people ask me whether they can do the full review in the morning or the full review in the evening instead of splitting it. You can, but I do not recommend it. The split design is intentional. The morning reset prepares you for the day ahead. The evening consolidation processes the day behind. These are different psychological functions that happen best at different times. Trying to do both in the morning means you are consolidating a day that has not happened yet. Trying to do both in the evening means you are setting intentions when your willpower is depleted. The split honors how your brain actually works. Let me give you a practical example of this ritual in action. Kevin is a 38-year-old sales manager trying to build a coaching business on the side. His primary goal is signing his first 10 paying coaching clients within 12 months. His mornings used to begin with email triage, responding to his team's questions and his boss's requests before he did anything for himself. His evenings ended with Netflix until he fell asleep, with no reflection on what he accomplished or what mattered next. Kevin implemented the 7-minute daily review. Every morning at 6:15, before checking any device, he completed his 4-minute morning reset. His one thing might be reaching out to 3 potential clients, or creating content for his coaching website, or scheduling a discovery call he had been postponing. He visualized completing it, anticipated what might get in the way, and committed. Every evening at 9:30, before any entertainment, He completed his 3-minute evening consolidation. He acknowledged whether he completed his one thing, noted his progress in a simple journal, expressed gratitude for something in his journey, and defined tomorrow's one thing. The results appeared within weeks. Kevin reported feeling more focused during his sales job because he had already given his goal attention that morning. He made faster progress on his coaching business because every day had a clear priority. He felt less guilt in the evenings because he had already acknowledged his efforts. And he slept better because his mind was not racing with undefined tasks for tomorrow. 6 months later, Kevin had signed 12 paying coaching clients, exceeding his goal by 20%. The 7-minute daily review did not replace his other systems. It integrated them. It ensured that all the strategies we have discussed, the one-goal filter, the outcome-to-process method, the weekly winning plan, the minimum effective day, and friction design, remained active in his daily awareness instead of fading into forgotten theory. This is what daily review does. It keeps the entire system alive. Without it, even the best strategies decay. With it, every strategy reinforces every other strategy, creating a compounding effect that accelerates your progress. Here is your implementation step. Tomorrow morning, set an alarm 4 minutes earlier than usual. Complete the morning reset before you touch your phone. Tomorrow evening, set an alarm for 3 minutes before your usual wind-down time. Complete the evening consolidation before any entertainment. Do this for 1 week. Notice how it changes your relationship with your goal. Notice how it changes your clarity, your focus, your sense of progress. You now have daily rituals for maintaining alignment with your primary goal. But rituals alone do not create transformation. At some point, you need to prove to yourself that this system works. You need evidence, not just theory. You need wins you can see and measure. In the next chapter, I'm going to give you the 30-day sprint. This is a focused burst that builds proof, confidence, and momentum through undeniable results. You will learn how to structure your first month for maximum impact, creating a foundation of success that carries you through the entire year. Your daily rhythm is established. Now let us build your proof. Chapter 8. The 30-day sprint. 76% of New Year's resolutions fail within the first 30 days. Not by December, not by summer, within the first month. The beginning is where most goals go to die. And the reason is not lack of motivation. In fact, motivation is usually highest at the start. The reason is lack of proof. People begin with hope, but hope without evidence is fragile. The first obstacle shatters it. The first missed day erodes it. The first sign of slow progress makes it evaporate entirely. Hope alone cannot sustain a year-long pursuit. You need something stronger. You need proof. Proof is evidence that you can do this. Evidence that the system works. Evidence that your efforts produce results. Proof transforms belief from wishful thinking into grounded confidence. When you have proof, obstacles become temporary setbacks instead of permanent verdicts. When you have proof, missed days become minor interruptions instead of catastrophic failures. When you have proof, you stop asking if you can achieve your goal and start asking when you will achieve it. The 30-day sprint is designed to generate proof as quickly as possible. It is a focused burst at the beginning of your goal pursuit that creates undeniable evidence of progress. Not a full year of effort. Not 6 months of hoping. 30 days of concentrated execution that builds a foundation strong enough to support everything that follows. Here is the psychology behind why this works. Researchers at the European Journal of Social Psychology studied habit formation and found that the early days of any new behavior are disproportionately important. Progress made in the first month creates neural pathways that make future progress easier. Struggles in the first month create negative associations that make future effort harder. The beginning is not just the beginning. It is the blueprint for everything that comes after. This is why most goals fail early. People approach the first month casually. They figure they have plenty of time. They tell themselves they will ramp up later. They treat January like a warm-up instead of a foundation. By the time they realize they should have started stronger, the window for building momentum has closed. February arrives, and they have no proof that this year will be different from last year. The 30-day sprint flips this approach completely. Instead of easing into your goal, you attack it. Instead of building gradually, you demonstrate capacity immediately. Instead of waiting for motivation, you create evidence that generates its own motivation. You front-load your effort so that by day 31, you have so much proof that quitting feels impossible. Let me show you how to structure your 30-day sprint. The first element is sprint goal definition. This is a specific, measurable outcome you will achieve within 30 days. Not your full primary goal, which likely takes 12 months. A meaningful subset that proves you are capable. If your primary goal is writing a book, your sprint goal might be completing the first 3 chapters or 20,000 words. If your primary goal is losing 30 pounds, your sprint goal might be losing 6 pounds and completing 20 workouts. If your primary goal is building a business, your sprint goal might be launching your website and acquiring your first 5 customers. Your sprint goal must be ambitious enough to require real effort, but achievable enough to be realistic within 30 days. The sweet spot is a goal that stretches you without breaking you. You should feel slightly nervous about whether you can hit it. That nervousness means the goal is appropriately challenging. The second element is daily non-negotiables. These are the specific actions you commit to performing every single day of the sprint. Not most days. Every day. Remember the research from earlier about missing 2 consecutive days destroying habit formation. During the sprint, you cannot afford even 1 2-day gap. Your daily non-negotiables are the minimum effective day actions from Chapter 5, executed with 0 exceptions for 30 consecutive days. Write them down explicitly. I will write 500 words every day for 30 days. I will exercise for at least 20 minutes every day for 30 days. I will make 3 sales calls every day for 30 days. These statements become contracts with yourself. Breaking them is not an option during the sprint. The third element is weekly milestones. 30 days is too long to operate without checkpoints. Divide your sprint goal into 4 weekly targets. If your sprint goal is 20,000 words, your weekly milestones might be 5,000 words each week. If your sprint goal is 20 workouts, your weekly milestones might be 5 workouts each week. These milestones let you assess progress and adjust intensity. If you fall behind in week 1, you know you need to increase effort in week 2. If you surge ahead, you can raise your overall sprint goal. The fourth element is an accountability mechanism. The sprint is too important to rely solely on self-discipline. You need external reinforcement. This could be a friend who checks in daily, a coach who reviews your progress weekly, a public commitment on social media, or a financial stake where you lose money if you fail. Research from the American Society of Training and Development found that having a specific accountability appointment with someone increases your probability of success to 95%. 95%. Find someone who will hold you accountable during these 30 days. The fifth element is a reward structure. Define in advance what you will give yourself when you complete the sprint successfully. This is not optional. Your brain needs a clear reward to associate with the effort you are expending. The reward should be meaningful and desirable. A weekend trip, a purchase you have been postponing, an experience you have been wanting, something that makes your brain say, yes, this effort is worth it. Now let me address what separates successful sprints from failed ones. Average performers announce their sprint publicly, feel initial enthusiasm, execute strongly for the first week, encounter their first obstacle in week 2, begin negotiating with their commitments, miss a day and tell themselves they will make it up, miss another day, feel guilt instead of taking corrective action, and abandon the sprint by week 3, telling themselves they will try again next month. Elite performers announce their sprint to specific accountability partners, not vague public audiences. They expect obstacles and have contingency plans prepared. When they encounter difficulty in week 2, they execute their contingency instead of their ideal. If they miss a day, they treat it as data, identify the cause, and implement a solution immediately. They never miss 2 consecutive days. They reach day 30 with proof that transforms their self-concept. They no longer hope they can achieve their goal. They know they can because they have evidence. The difference is not willpower. The difference is design. Average performers hope the sprint will go well. Elite performers engineer the sprint to succeed. Let me give you a practical example. Amanda is a 29-year-old accountant who wanted to run a marathon within a year. She had never run more than 2 miles continuously. Her primary goal was completing a marathon in 11 months. Her sprint goal was running 5 kilometers without stopping within 30 days. She defined her daily non-negotiables: run or walk for at least 20 minutes every day, no exceptions. She established weekly milestones. Week 1, run 1 kilometer continuously. Week 2, run 2 kilometers. Week 3, run 3 kilometers. Week 4, run 5 kilometers. She recruited her sister as an accountability partner, committing to text her after every run. She defined her reward: new running shoes she had wanted for months. The first week was hard. Amanda's body was not used to daily running. She was sore and slow, but she never missed a day. Some days she ran, other days she walked, but she always completed 20 minutes. By day 7, she could run 1 kilometer without stopping. Proof. The second week, she faced her first real obstacle. A work deadline required late nights at the office. Her old self would have skipped runs, promising to catch up later. Instead, Amanda ran at 6 in the morning before work, executing her contingency plan. She completed week 2 hitting her 2-kilometer milestone. More proof. The third week, she got sick with a cold. This was the danger zone. She could not run hard without making herself worse. She negotiated with her non-negotiable. Instead of running, she walked briskly for 20 minutes each day, maintaining the daily habit without damaging her health. By day 21, she was recovered and back to running. She hit her 3-kilometer milestone 1 day late. Imperfect, but unbroken. The fourth week, Amanda pushed. She ran every day, increasing distance gradually. On day 29, she ran 5 kilometers without stopping for the first time in her life. She texted her sister with a screenshot of her running app. She cried in the parking lot of the park where she finished. Not because 5 kilometers was her ultimate goal, but because she now had proof that she could do hard things. Proof that she could commit and follow through. Proof that a marathon was not a fantasy, but an inevitable outcome of continued effort. Amanda went on to complete her marathon 10 months later. But the real transformation happened in those first 30 days. That sprint built the identity that carried her through everything else. This is what the 30-day sprint does. It compresses months of gradual confidence building into one intensive period. It creates evidence so quickly that your doubting mind cannot argue with it. It establishes habits so firmly that they become automatic. It transforms you from someone who wants to achieve a goal into someone who is achieving a goal. The shift is profound. Here is how to begin your sprint. First, define your sprint goal. What meaningful milestone will you reach in 30 days? Second, establish your daily non-negotiables. What actions will you perform every single day without exception? Third, create weekly milestones. What checkpoints will tell you if you are on track? Fourth, secure accountability. Who will hold you to your commitment? Fifth, set your reward. What will you give yourself when you succeed? Start your sprint within 72 hours of finishing this audiobook. Not next week, not next month, within 3 days. The gap between learning and implementing is where goals go to die. Close that gap immediately. You have spent 7 chapters building a complete system: goal selection, process definition, weekly planning, daily minimums, environment design, and daily review. The 30-day sprint is where you prove that system works. 30 days from now, you will have evidence that changes everything. You will have momentum that carries you forward. You will have an identity that demands continued progress. But here is the reality you must also prepare for. Even with the best systems, life will disrupt you. Unexpected obstacles will appear. Crises will demand your attention. Progress will stall despite your best efforts. What happens then? How do you recover when everything falls apart? In the next chapter, I am going to give you protocols for handling disruption. You will learn how to get back on track after setbacks without losing all your progress. You will learn the difference between a stumble and a fall, and how to ensure stumbles never become falls. Because your best year will include hard days. What matters is how you respond to them. Your sprint is ready. Now let us prepare for the storms. Chapter 9. When life hits. 89% of people who experience a major disruption to their goals never fully recover. They do not fail gradually. They fail suddenly, knocked off course by an event they did not anticipate, and they never find their way back. A health crisis, a job loss, a family emergency, a global pandemic. Life does not care about your plans. It will interrupt you. The question is not whether disruption will come. The question is whether you will have a protocol for handling it when it does. Here is what nobody tells you about goal achievement. The difference between people who achieve their goals and people who abandon them is not that successful people avoid obstacles. They encounter just as many obstacles as everyone else. The difference is recovery speed. Successful people get knocked down and get back up quickly. Unsuccessful people get knocked down and stay down, sometimes for weeks, sometimes for months, sometimes forever. The gap between stumbling and falling is entirely determined by how fast you respond to the stumble. This chapter is about building recovery protocols that ensure disruptions remain temporary interruptions instead of permanent derailments. You cannot prevent life from hitting you, but you can absolutely control how quickly you return to execution after the hit. Let me start with a critical distinction. There are two types of disruption you will face: internal disruptions and external disruptions. Each requires a different recovery approach. Internal disruptions originate from within you. Loss of motivation, emotional burnout, mental fatigue, self-doubt spirals, depression, or anxiety flares. These disruptions do not have an external cause you can point to. They emerge from your psychology, your biology, your accumulated stress. One day you simply do not want to continue. The goal that felt exciting last month feels meaningless today. The actions that seemed manageable now feel impossible. External disruptions originate from outside you. A demanding project at work consumes all your time. A family member gets sick and needs your care. You experience a financial setback that creates stress and uncertainty. You move to a new city. Your relationship ends. These disruptions have clear external causes. Something in your environment changed dramatically, and that change disrupted your systems. The recovery protocols differ because the causes differ. Let me walk you through both. For internal disruptions, the protocol has 3 steps: recognize, reduce, and rebuild. Step 1 is recognize. Internal disruptions often build gradually. You do not wake up one day completely burned out. The burnout accumulates over weeks of ignored warning signs. The key is catching the disruption early when it is still manageable. Warning signs include dreading your goal-related activities when you used to enjoy them, feeling exhausted despite adequate sleep, experiencing persistent negative self-talk about your capabilities, finding excuses that you know are excuses but making them anyway, and losing the emotional connection to why your goal matters. When you notice these signs, do not push through blindly. That makes internal disruptions worse. Instead, acknowledge what is happening. Say it explicitly. I am experiencing internal disruption. This is not weakness. This is information. Your mind and body are telling you something needs to change. Step 2 is reduce. When internal disruption hits, your standard execution level is temporarily unsustainable. Trying to maintain it will deepen the burnout instead of resolving it. This is where the minimum effective day becomes essential. Drop immediately to your minimum. If your normal lead measure is 2 hours of deep work daily, reduce to 15 minutes. If your normal workout is 45 minutes, reduce to 10. The goal is not progress during this phase. The goal is maintaining connection to your goal without depleting yourself further. Research from the Journal of Occupational Health Psychology shows that strategic reduction during burnout periods leads to faster full recovery than pushing through. People who reduce their workload by 40% during high-stress periods returned to full productivity 3 weeks faster than people who maintain their normal output. Reduction is not retreat. It is strategic recovery. Step 3 is rebuild. After a period of reduced execution, typically 1 to 2 weeks, you begin gradually increasing intensity, not jumping back to full capacity immediately. Gradual rebuilding. Week 1 at minimum. Week 2 at 50% of normal. Week 3 at 75%. Week 4 back to full execution. This graduated return prevents the relapse that happens when people swing from burnout to overexertion and back to burnout. For external disruptions, the protocol is different. Assess, adapt, and accelerate. Step 1 is assess. When an external disruption hits, your first job is understanding its scope and duration. Is this a short-term crisis that will resolve in days, a medium-term challenge lasting weeks, or a long-term shift that changes your circumstances for months? The assessment determines your response. A 3-day work emergency requires a different approach than a 3-month caregiving responsibility. Ask yourself 3 questions. First, how long will this disruption realistically last? Be honest, not optimistic. Underestimating duration leads to frustration when the disruption extends beyond your expectations. Second, how much of my goal-related capacity does this disruption consume? If a family crisis requires 4 hours of your day, that is 4 hours unavailable for your goal. Calculate the real impact. Third, what is the minimum I can maintain during this period without abandoning my goal entirely? This connects back to your minimum effective day. Step 2 is adapt. Based on your assessment, modify your systems temporarily. This is not abandoning your goal. It is adjusting your approach to match your current reality. If you normally dedicate 10 hours per week to your primary goal, and a work crisis cuts your available time in half, adapt to 5 hours. Reschedule your calendar blocks. Adjust your weekly targets. Communicate with your accountability partner about the temporary change. The critical principle here is explicit adaptation versus implicit abandonment. Explicit adaptation means consciously deciding to reduce your targets for a defined period, with a specific plan to return to normal. Implicit abandonment means gradually doing less and less without any conscious decision, until you realize months later that you stopped pursuing your goal entirely. Explicit adaptation preserves your identity as someone pursuing the goal. Implicit abandonment erodes it. Step 3 is accelerate. Once the external disruption resolves, do not simply return to normal. Accelerate briefly to recover lost ground. If you spent 3 weeks at reduced capacity, spend 1 week at increased capacity. This acceleration serves 2 purposes. It practically helps you catch up on missed progress, and it psychologically reinforces that disruptions are temporary, that you always return stronger than you left. Let me give you a practical example combining both types of disruption. Michael is a 44-year-old entrepreneur building an online education business. His primary goal was launching 3 courses in 12 months. He had been executing well for 4 months when life hit him with both barrels. First, his father was diagnosed with cancer, requiring Michael to travel frequently for hospital visits and family support. This was an external disruption. Second, the stress of his father's illness triggered a depressive episode that sapped Michael's motivation and energy. This was an internal disruption. He was dealing with both simultaneously. Michael could have abandoned his goal entirely. No one would have blamed him, but he chose to implement recovery protocols instead. For the external disruption, he assessed. His father's treatment would last approximately 3 months. Hospital visits required 2 days per week, and his available time for business was cut by 60%. He adapted explicitly. He reduced his weekly business hours from 20 to 8, focused only on his highest leverage activities, and communicated with his audience that content would be less frequent temporarily. He did not pretend everything was normal. He adjusted visibly and intentionally. For the internal disruption, he recognized the warning signs: persistent fatigue, loss of interest in work he usually enjoyed, negative thought spirals about whether his business mattered. He reduced immediately. His minimum effective day became 15 minutes of coursework. Anything more was bonus. He protected those 15 minutes, but did not demand more from himself. He rebuilt gradually. As his father's treatment showed positive results, and his own therapy helped stabilize his mood, he increased from 15 minutes to 30, then to an hour, then eventually back to his normal output. 3 months later, Michael's father entered remission. Michael's depression had lifted, and remarkably, Michael had maintained his connection to his business throughout. He had not launched 3 courses, but he had launched 1 and was halfway through the second. He was behind his original timeline, but still in the game. Most importantly, he had proven to himself that obstacles could not stop him. They could only slow him temporarily. This is what recovery protocols do. They keep you in the game when everything screams at you to quit. They transform potential failures into temporary setbacks. They preserve the identity you have built as someone who pursues their goals regardless of circumstances. Average performers treat disruptions as verdicts. They interpret obstacles as signs that they should quit, that the goal was not meant to be, that the universe is telling them something. They use disruption as an excuse to abandon what they started. They never develop the resilience that comes from persevering through difficulty. Elite performers treat disruptions as tests. They interpret obstacles as opportunities to prove their commitment, to develop new capabilities, to strengthen their resolve. They use disruption as a catalyst for growth rather than an excuse for surrender. They emerge from every disruption more capable than they entered. The research supports this distinction. A study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology followed participants pursuing challenging goals over 18 months. The single strongest predictor of success was not initial motivation, not available resources, not social support. It was response to adversity. Participants who recovered quickly from setbacks were 2.7 times more likely to achieve their goals than participants who recovered slowly or not at all. Here is your implementation step. Before disruption hits, define your recovery protocols in advance. Write down your minimum effective day for internal disruptions. Write down your assessment questions for external disruptions. Decide now what accountability partner you will contact when you need support. Do not wait until crisis strikes to figure out your response. By then, your cognitive resources will be consumed by the crisis itself. Prepare now while you have clarity. You have now built a complete system for your best year ever. Goal selection through the one goal filter. Process definition through outcome to process. Weekly structure through the weekly winning plan. Daily resilience through the minimum effective day. Environment engineering through friction design. Daily alignment through the 7-minute review. Momentum building through the 30-day sprint. And disruption recovery through the protocols in this chapter. There is only one thing left: integration. Bringing all of these elements together into a unified approach that becomes your operating system for the year ahead. In the final chapter, I am going to help you activate the complete system. You will see how all the pieces connect. You will understand the sequence for implementation. And you will leave with absolute clarity on what to do first, second, and third to make this your best year ever. Everything has been preparation. Now let us begin. Chapter 10. Your best year starts now. 1 year from today, you will be one of two people. The first person looks back at this moment and feels regret. They listened to these ideas, felt inspired temporarily, and then returned to the same patterns that have always held them back. Their goals remained wishes. Their potential remained untapped. Another year passed without meaningful progress. They tell themselves next year will be different, knowing somewhere deep inside that it probably will not be. The second person looks back at this moment as a turning point. They did not just listen to ideas. They implemented them. They built the system. They executed the sprint. They recovered from disruptions. They achieved something they once thought impossible. When they look in the mirror 12 months from now, they see someone transformed. Not by luck, not by talent, by structure, consistency, and deliberate action. You get to choose which person you become. And that choice is made not someday in the future, but right now, in the actions you take within the next 72 hours. Let me bring together everything you have learned into a unified system you can activate immediately. The 7-step plan for your best year ever works like this. Each step builds on the previous one, creating an integrated structure that makes goal achievement nearly inevitable. Here is the complete architecture. Step 1 is the one goal filter. You identify your single most important goal by scoring every candidate on 3 dimensions: impact, meaning, and leverage. The goal with the highest combined score becomes your primary focus for the year. Everything else is either supporting, maintenance, or eliminated. This step takes 30 minutes and provides 12 months of clarity. You stop scattering your energy across 10 goals and start concentrating it on the one goal that matters most. Step 2 is outcome to process. You transform your primary goal from a vague aspiration into an executable plan. You define your outcome with brutal specificity. You identify 2 to 3 lead measures, the controllable activities that drive your outcome. You set weekly targets for those lead measures. You build a simple tracking system. This step takes 1 hour and converts hoping into doing. You stop focusing on outcomes you cannot control and start focusing on processes you can. Step 3 is the weekly winning plan. Every week, you spend 30 minutes designing the week ahead. You review the previous week. You visualize what winning looks like. You schedule your lead measure activities as calendar appointments. You anticipate obstacles and create contingencies. You commit to execution. This ritual ensures your primary goal receives protected time regardless of what else demands your attention. You stop letting your week happen to you and start designing your week intentionally. Step 4 is the minimum effective day. You define the smallest action that maintains momentum on your worst days. This action takes less than 10 minutes, is completely specific, and directly connects to your lead measures. On good days, you execute fully. On bad days, you execute your minimum. You never have 2 consecutive days of zero. This step takes 5 minutes to define and prevents months of progress from collapsing when life gets difficult. You stop operating in all-or-nothing mode and start building unbreakable consistency. Step 5 is friction design. You engineer your environment to make good behaviors easier and bad behaviors harder. You remove friction from goal-supporting actions through preparation, step reduction, decision elimination, and environment optimization. You add friction to goal-sabotaging actions through distance, additional steps, commitment devices, and social accountability. This step takes 1 to 2 hours of initial setup and then operates automatically. You stop fighting your environment and start leveraging it. Step 6 is the 7-minute daily review. Every morning, you spend 4 minutes on your reset, setting intention, visualizing success, anticipating obstacles, and committing. Every evening, you spend 3 minutes on consolidation, acknowledging progress, expressing gratitude, and preparing tomorrow's priority. This daily rhythm keeps your goal at the center of your attention without consuming significant time. You stop losing focus as days blur together and start maintaining clarity through intentional daily contact with your goal. Step 7 is the 30-day sprint. Within 72 hours of finishing this audiobook, you launch a focused 30-day burst. You define a sprint goal, establish daily non-negotiables, create weekly milestones, secure accountability, and set your reward. This sprint generates proof quickly, building the evidence and confidence that sustains you through the remaining 11 months. You stop building gradually and start demonstrating capacity immediately. These 7 steps are not independent tactics. They are an integrated system where each element reinforces every other element. The one goal filter gives you focus. Outcome to process gives you clarity. The weekly winning plan gives you structure. The minimum effective day gives you resilience. Friction design gives you environmental support. The 7-minute daily review gives you daily alignment. The 30-day sprint gives you proof and momentum. Remove any single element and the system weakens. Implement all 7 and you become nearly unstoppable. Now let me give you the exact sequence for implementation over the next 7 days. Day 1. Complete the one goal filter. List every goal you are considering. Score each on impact, meaning, and leverage. Identify your primary goal. This takes 30 to 60 minutes. Do it today. Day 2. Complete the outcome to process method. Define your outcome specifically. Identify your lead measures. Set weekly targets. Create your tracking system. This takes 60 to 90 minutes. Do it tomorrow. Day 3. Define your minimum effective day. Determine the smallest action that maintains momentum. Write it down. Memorize it. This takes 15 minutes. Also define your recovery protocols for internal and external disruptions. Day 4. Implement friction design. Audit your environment. Identify one friction to remove from a goal-supporting behavior and one friction to add to a goal-sabotaging behavior. Make the physical changes. This takes 1 to 2 hours. Day 5. Complete your first weekly winning plan. Review nothing since this is your first week. Visualize your weekly wins. Schedule your lead measure activities. Anticipate obstacles. Commit. This takes 30 minutes. You will repeat this every week for the rest of the year. Day 6. Begin your 7-minute daily review. Execute your 4-minute morning reset. Execute your 3-minute evening consolidation. Continue daily for the entire year. Day 7. Launch your 30-day sprint. Define your sprint goal. Establish daily non-negotiables. Create weekly milestones. Confirm your accountability partner. Set your reward. Begin execution. Do not wait for perfect conditions. Start now. By day 7, your entire system is operational. You have focus, clarity, structure, resilience, environmental support, daily alignment, and active momentum. You have transformed from someone who hopes for a better year into someone who is building a better year. The difference is everything. Let me address the voice in your head that might be raising objections right now. The voice says, "This seems like a lot of work." Here is the truth. Yes, setting up the system requires effort. Approximately 5 to 7 hours spread across your first week. But consider the alternative. Without a system, you will spend hundreds of hours over the next year on scattered activities that produce no meaningful results. You will end December in the same place you started January, wondering where the time went. 5 hours of setup to save hundreds of hours of wasted effort is not a lot of work. It is the highest return investment you can make. The voice says, "What if I cannot stick with it?" Here is the truth. The system is designed for imperfect humans. The minimum effective day ensures you can maintain progress even on terrible days. The recovery protocols ensure disruptions remain temporary. The weekly winning plan ensures you recalibrate regularly instead of drifting permanently off course. You do not need to be perfect. You need to be persistent. And the system makes persistence dramatically easier. The voice says, "What if my goal changes mid-year?" Here is the truth. Goals can evolve as you gain new information about yourself and your circumstances. If your primary goal genuinely needs to change, run it through the one goal filter again. Make a conscious decision based on impact, meaning, and leverage. What you want to avoid is goal switching driven by difficulty rather than genuine reevaluation. If you are changing goals because the current one got hard, that is not adaptation. That is avoidance. The system helps you distinguish between the two. The voice says, "I have tried systems before and they did not work." Here is the truth. You probably tried incomplete systems. A planner without weekly review. A habit tracker without friction design. Goals without lead measures. Intentions without accountability. This system is comprehensive. Every vulnerability is addressed. Every failure mode is countered. If previous systems failed you, it is because they left gaps. This system closes them. I want to leave you with something important. Your best year is not going to feel magical every day. There will be mornings when you do not want to execute your morning reset. There will be weeks when your calendar explodes and your lead measures get squeezed. There will be moments when you question whether any of this matters. That is normal. That is human. That is not a sign that you are failing. Success is not the absence of struggle. Success is the presence of structure that carries you through struggle. The system you have learned does not eliminate difficulty. It ensures difficulty does not eliminate your progress. You will have hard days. You will have hard weeks. But you will not have a hard year, because your structure will keep pulling you forward even when motivation disappears. Remember the core truth that anchors everything. Your best year is not a feeling. It is a structure. Feelings fluctuate. Motivation fades. Enthusiasm evaporates. But structure persists. Systems endure. Architecture holds even when the weather turns violent. You now have the architecture. 7 steps. Integrated. Proven. Ready for implementation. The 92% who fail this year will fail because they relied on feelings instead of structure. They will start with enthusiasm that cannot sustain them through February. They will set goals without systems. They will hope without executing. They will wish without building. You are going to be different. You are going to be part of the 8% who succeed. Not because you have more talent. Not because you have more willpower. Not because you are luckier or smarter or more deserving. Because you have a structure that the 92% do not have. 1 year from today, You will look back at this moment. You will remember the decision you made. You will remember whether you implemented or just listened. You will remember whether you built the system or just appreciated the ideas. And you will live with the consequences of that choice every day for the rest of your life. Choose wisely. Choose now. Choose action. Your best year starts in the next 72 hours. Not someday. Not next week. Not when conditions are perfect. Now. Structure beats motivation. Systems beat willpower. Proof beats hope. Build the structure. Trust the system. Create the proof. This is your year. Make it count. Bonus chapter: the 72-hour Quick Start Blueprint. You have just received a complete system for achieving your most important goal. 10 chapters, 7 steps, dozens of strategies, frameworks, and protocols. But information without implementation is entertainment, not transformation. And I did not create this audiobook to entertain you. I created it to change your life. So let me give you something that eliminates every possible excuse for delay. This bonus chapter is your 72-hour Quick Start Blueprint. It condenses everything you learned into a precise action sequence you can execute over the next 3 days. No more processing. No more planning to plan. Just action, starting now. Here is exactly what to do in the next 72 hours. Hour 0 to Hour 4. This is your clarity phase. Before you do anything else, complete the one goal filter. Grab a piece of paper or open a document. Write down every goal you have been considering. Do not filter. Do not judge. Get them all out. Now score each goal on 3 dimensions. Impact from 0 to 10, meaning from 0 to 10, leverage from 0 to 10. Add the scores. Circle the goal with the highest total. This is your primary goal for the next 12 months. Write it at the top of a fresh page in large letters. Underneath, write why this goal matters to you in 1 sentence. This exercise takes 30 to 60 minutes. Do not move forward until it is complete. Hour 4 to Hour 8. This is your definition phase. Take your primary goal and make it specific. What exactly does success look like? What number, date, or measurable outcome defines achievement? Write it as a clear statement. I will accomplish specific measurable outcome by specific date. Now identify your lead measures. Ask yourself, what 2 or 3 activities, done consistently, would make this outcome nearly inevitable? Write them down. For each lead measure, set a weekly target. How many times per week or how many hours per week will you execute this activity? Finally, decide how you will track these lead measures. A simple spreadsheet, a habit app, or a paper tally sheet. Choose one and set it up. This phase takes 60 to 90 minutes. Hour 8 to Hour 12. This is your protection phase. Define your minimum effective day. What is the smallest action that takes less than 10 minutes and keeps you connected to your goal on your worst days? Write it down and memorize it. This is your floor. You will never go below this floor, no matter what. Next, implement 1 friction removal and 1 friction addition. Look at your environment. What single change would make your desired behavior easier? Remove that friction now. What single change would make your undesired behavior harder? Add that friction now. Do not overthink this. 1 removal, 1 addition. Physical changes only. This phase takes 60 to 90 minutes. Hour 12 to Hour 24. This is your scheduling phase. Open your calendar for the upcoming week. Block time for your lead measure activities before anything else claims that space. Treat these blocks as unmovable appointments. They are meetings with your future self, and your future self is your most important client. Now identify your potential obstacles for the week. What could disrupt your plan blocks? Create a contingency for each obstacle. If this happens, I will do this instead. Write these contingencies down. Finally, define what winning looks like for your first week. What 2 or 3 outcomes would make you feel like you moved forward meaningfully? Write them down. These are your weekly wins. This phase takes 30 to 60 minutes. Hour 24 to Hour 48. This is your activation phase. Execute your first morning reset. For minutes, set your intention for the day, the one thing you must accomplish. Visualize completing it. Anticipate what could get in the way. Commit to execution. Then do your first lead measure work session during the time you blocked. Execute fully. No half measures on day 1. In the evening, Complete your first evening consolidation. 3 minutes. Acknowledge what you accomplished. Note your progress. Express gratitude for something in your journey. Define tomorrow's one thing. Go to sleep knowing exactly what matters tomorrow. Hour 48 to hour 72. This is your momentum phase. Repeat the morning reset and evening consolidation. Execute your second lead measure session. After completing it, take 10 minutes to assess. How did the first 2 days feel? What worked well? What needs adjustment? Make one small refinement to your system based on what you learned. Contact your accountability partner. If you do not have one, find one today. Text a friend, message a colleague, join an online community. Tell them your primary goal and ask them to check in with you weekly. Lock in this accountability before the 72 hours end. At the end of 72 hours, here is what you will have. You will have absolute clarity on your one primary goal, scored and selected through the one goal filter. You will have a specific, measurable outcome with a deadline. You will have 2 to 3 lead measures with weekly targets. You will have a tracking system ready to record your execution. You will have your minimum effective day defined and memorized. You will have environmental changes that reduce friction on good behaviors and increase friction on bad behaviors. You will have your first week's calendar blocked for lead measure work. You will have contingency plans for anticipated obstacles. You will have 2 full days of morning resets and evening consolidations completed. You will have 2 lead measure work sessions executed. You will have an accountability partner locked in. In 72 hours, you will have done more to pursue your goal than most people do in 72 days. You will have proof that you are serious. You will have momentum that makes continuing easier than stopping. Now let me give you 3 rules for these 72 hours that will dramatically increase your success rate. Rule 1. No consumption. For the next 3 days, do not read another book about productivity. Do not watch videos about goal setting. Do not listen to podcasts about success. You have enough information. More consumption is procrastination disguised as preparation. Implementation only. If you feel the urge to learn more, redirect that energy into doing more. Rule 2. No perfection. Your first attempt at the one goal filter will not be perfect. Your lead measures might need adjustment later. Your calendar blocks might get disrupted. None of that matters. Done is better than perfect. A slightly imperfect system that you actually use beats a theoretically perfect system that you never implement. Start messy. Refine as you go. Rule 3. No negotiation. For 72 hours, your commitments are non-negotiable. You do not debate whether to do the morning reset. You do not consider skipping your lead measure session. You do not negotiate with yourself about whether today is a good day for execution. You simply do what you planned. The negotiation phase is over. You made your decisions during planning. Now you execute those decisions without revisiting them. Think about what happens every time you negotiate with yourself. You create a debate where there should be none. Your mind generates excuses that sound reasonable in the moment but lead nowhere productive. Maybe you tell yourself you will start fresh tomorrow, or that one missed session will not matter, or that you deserve a break before you have even begun. These negotiations feel like rational thinking, but they are actually resistance wearing a mask of logic. Neuroscientists call this the prefrontal override, where your brain constructs sophisticated arguments to justify avoiding discomfort. The most successful people you admire do not have fewer excuses available to them. They simply refuse to entertain those excuses. They treat their commitments like gravity, an unchangeable force that does not care about feelings, circumstances, or convenience. For the next 72 hours, become that person who does not negotiate, and watch how quickly your self-image transforms. These 3 rules, no consumption, no perfection, no negotiation, create a container that makes implementation inevitable. Follow them strictly for 72 hours. I want to leave you with one final thought. The distance between who you are and who you want to become is not measured in years. It is measured in actions. Every action you take in the next 72 hours is a vote for the person you are becoming. Every lead measure session, every morning reset, every evening consolidation, every friction design change. Each one is a vote. Cast enough votes and your identity shifts. You stop being someone who wants to achieve their goal and start being someone who is achieving their goal. The system works. The science is proven. The frameworks are tested. The only variable is you. Will you implement or just appreciate? Will you execute or just understand? Will you become one of the 8% or remain with the 92%? 72 hours. That is all that separates you from a completely different trajectory. Not 72 days. Not 72 weeks. 72 hours of focused implementation. Your best year is not waiting somewhere in the future. It is being built right now, in this moment, by the decision you make about what to do next. The blueprint is in your hands. The clock starts now. Go build your best year ever.